When you don't have a nickname for somebody, they're just Jimmy.
I'm keeping that bit on the show.
I think about it all the time.
I was up last night thinking about it. I was watching House of the Dragon. I was like, oh, what would my dragon be named? Oh, Jimmy.
Or there's just too many of the Targaryens are the absolute pinnacle of reusing names. There's 45 Aegons.
Bro, imagine how much peace Westeros would have if the Targaryens could come up with like more than 5 names.
It would give exactly world peace. Or if they just use it, like you call someone Jimmy, that's the 40th Aegon in the show. It would be like, okay. Oh, man.
And his firstborn, Jimmy Targaryen.
First of his name. Breaker of chains. Jimmy Targaryen. Rider of dragons.
Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers joining you for part 2, the Big Beauties episode. We talked about offensive tackles in last week's episode. Now we are ranking interior offensive linemen. Now it's a little bit more of a melting pot this episode because we do combine interior offensive linemen, guards, and centers, but you also have some guys who played tackle who we think could be guard. And so it's a really big conversation. And because of that, the way that Connor and I think the best conversation is going to be had is we're going to give you our top 5 interior offensive linemen. So it could be centers, could be guards, could be guys who play in tackle. They're going to move inside, whatever. And then we're going to have a big conversation about some of these guys that are outside of those top 5s. And I think it's going to be a fun little back and forth. Connor, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. Definitely an interesting group, that we're going to go through today because, it takes a little bit more. There's some guys that just, quite frankly, aren't playing the positions that you think they'll excel at the next level, where you have to use your imagination, or you hope that we see a lot of them go to the Senior Bowl process and they get to play those positions at the Senior Bowl, or they work out for teams there. So this is a fun one because I think you really, really need to dig deep and kind of use your projecting skills, because there are just so many colleges that play guys at tackle because, hey, this might be our best guy. But NFL teams will come in and be like, well, there's no one in the league playing tackle at this size or this kind of way where we might think you're a center. So, and then honestly, Trevor, what blew my mind, and we'll get into this, there are guys that were powerhouse, like 5-star recruits as interior offensive linemen that are just dominating at guard at the college level. It's nice to see them not being forced to have to go play tackle at the college level just because they were a big recruit. They look great where they're supposed to be. So definitely a fun group to talk about today.
This position group and this specific podcast episode is always like beauty is in the eye of the beholder thing, right?
Yes.
I mean, like Graham Barton played left tackle at Duke for 2 years, was good at it. And then the second he got drafted in the NFL, they went, no, you're a center. And like, we're all cool with that because he's going to be good at center. But there are a couple of guys who, even in like today's episode, they're playing tackle at the at the college football level right now. But I actually think you're probably could be a great center. Like, so these conversations that we get to have of the creativity, where you think a guy is going to play best, you get a little bit more flexibility to explore that, I should say, with these guys, with different positions, and you have the ability to kind of envision them in these different spots. But so 5 through 1, like I said, can be guards, can be centers. In my case, it can even be guys who are playing tackle who I think are going to play on the interior at the NFL level. So I'll have you kick it off here. Tell me who you got at number 5. Tell me obviously like who they are, where they play, all that good stuff. And then the vision of kind of which position you actually see them playing on the interior.
So 5 for me is a really interesting guy in Tate Ratledge, the guard for Georgia, because he is 6 feet, 6 inches tall, really 6'6" and an eighth, actually. He's that shade above 6 feet, 6 inches tall, 315 pounds. Like when you just look at that on a spreadsheet or on paper, you're like, well, that's a tackle.
Yeah,
right.
right.
Like at the college level, how many guys that tall? And he's really filling out now over time. Do you see? But it's Georgia. Georgia it's unbelievable the amount of 5-star offensive line recruits that come through there, where not everybody has this straight line path. And when you look at Ratledge, this is someone who has started at right guard for them both in 2022 and 2023. He's a former 4-star recruit, a former top 100 prospect in his class. His dad, Dean, played football at Tennessee Tech from 74 to 77. So, I mean, there is offensive, bloodlines here.
Dean Ratledge is a great O-line name.
That's a Wild West name. Like, Dean Ratledge was definitely just missed being cast in Tombstone. Phenomenal. You really love to see that.
I don't know, like, the first name Dean.
Yep.
You could be an O-lineman. Like, you could play on my team if your first name is Dean. Like, you're off at the right foot if that's your first name.
Good start for Tate and his chances of being a pro. Now, what's so interesting about him, Trevor?
Tate's a little too finesse.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from him. But
Tate's on the pontoon boat, like in the, like what I'm wearing. Let's be real.
Basically.
He's got on the floral. And
Tate to me is either playing quarterback or tight end. I'm just saying.
I agree. I think it's a little weird.
6'6", maybe he misses calling. I don't know.
But he plays a hell of a right guard.
No, he does.
Well, and what's weird about it is obviously this offensive line is just dripping with NFL talent. I mean,
crazy.
But besides that, like a lot of the guys we talk about when we do this exercise just maul and brawl. And I think he's an interesting player because I didn't get that vibe at all from watching him. I saw refinement and technique as a pass protector at right guard.
Really good pass blocker.
Really good pass blocker. I mean, if you want to look at the grading system of PFF, he's had an 87 plus both of those years starting at right guard. So he's not getting charged for a lot of pressures, hurries, hits, sacks. And you watch him play and it all checks out because of what his spatial awareness, Trevor, is unbelievable. I mean, he helps out his teammates and picks up stunts as well as anyone you'll see at the college level, where it's just he's constantly making the unit better in that regard. I think that he does a really good job getting under pads and keeping his feet working to kind of close off those pass rush lanes where, listen, he's a tall guy. And I wrote in his weaknesses, like he has an unconventional build at guard. I think he's high cut.
Yeah.
He's pretty lean. Yeah. It's not really what you like at guard. So the fact he's 5 for me just says how good I thought the film was. Because this is like body type and play style wise, not what I personally gravitate towards with guard. But to be fair to Ratledge at that height, I think he gets under pads and really knows how to use his legs to maintain strength and power. Now, Ratledge, to me, will be a very scheme-specific guy. If you are an outside zone team, you will probably love him because he's got adequate acceleration when they ask him to pull.
Yeah.
And he knows how to use the momentum in that build to wipe out defenders. Now, if you're asking Ratledge to down block and drive block guys off the snap and, take a nose tackle one, like that's not what I'm not excited about that with him. I didn't think the film in the downhill running game was anything, it wasn't a plus to me. Now, in the zone running game, though, he hits the strike zone. Like he moves well and he lands on his targets. And it's a 2-year starter at a high level program, especially for the offensive line, where I don't think Ratledge will be one of the best guards to come out of this draft, but I think I would stick my name next to his, betting on him to play in the NFL for a long time. Because if you can pass protect, you're not a negative as a pass protector, and he's a positive, and you fit a scheme that a lot of coaches run, you're probably going to play for a long time. And I can't say that about a lot of the guys I watch. A lot of them have pass pro issues because they are young players dealing with a lot. And I came away from watching Ratledge and went, man, there's a lot of things I just feel good about from day one if he was thrusted into an NFL camp almost today.
I liked him for last year's class.
I see why.
I started to evaluate him and start to do final evals for him before he ended up announcing that he was going to come back to Georgia. And I was a little surprised about that because, like you mentioned, he's a redshirt senior now. He's got those 2 years of starting experience in 2022 and 2023. And I thought he put together a pretty good product last year. Now, that's not to say that he can't get better. His build and sort of the eye test for Ratledge is interesting because you do look at this player and he's got a bigger upper body. You mentioned he's a little high cut. He almost looks like he'd sort of be a mauler type of a player, like really strong upper body. But I agree with you completely. He's better at zone blocking. Like then you watch the ball get snapped, you watch him turn and run, and you go, oh, wait a second, all right, big fella, and he's getting on the hoof pretty well. So I actually like him a lot as a zone blocker. To me, there's another player that he reminded me of that I thought of this pretty early. And when I looked up some of the measurables and some of the PFF grades and all that, Dalton Reisner is who he reminds me of, because Reisner's career PFF grades, even just from being in the league during his time with the Denver Broncos and then the Minnesota Vikings, consistently a much better pass blocker than he has been a run blocker. And he's sort of got a little bit of that similar body type as well, but that is sort of the player that I think that we're talking about here. And I feel like Ratledge would have been a third-round pick last year. That's the preliminary grade that I have on him going into the season. And for me, what really holds the key for him becoming maybe a second-round player and showing a ton of value as a guard is, can you get stronger and do you have a little bit more imposing strength when you call duo, when you call man gap concepts in between the tackles? Yeah. Can you really move people north to south? Because if you could do that, I agree with you, man. Really, really nice player when it comes to pass protection. And you don't get a lot of guards who are great pass protectors. I feel like it's more often you can get centers that are good pass protectors going from college to the pros. But to me, there's just not a ton of guards that are very natural at it that aren't like tackles who you kicked inside, who already knew how to be good pass protectors because they had to be a tackle. And now they're playing on the inside. These true guards, you don't often get these guys that have these, this sweet feet and this feel for pass protection the way that Ratledge does.
He's built exactly like Joe Tippmann from 2 drafts ago.
Yeah. Actually, because Tippmann was huge.
Tippmann was huge. He was 6'6", and Tippmann, came into the league as a center. He's played both guard and center for the Jets. He's actually looked good at guard.
Yeah.
And Ratledge is very, very similar player to Tippmann. Where did you stack Ratledge, or do you not want to? Do you want to hold?
No, he was 7 for me. No, he was
so
7.
Pretty close.
Yeah. When we were chit chatting a little bit before the show started. Don't worry, we didn't do the full pod before the pod, but I'm gonna have a couple of centers that are within my list here that we're gonna get to. So if you throw in a couple of centers, you knock Ratledge down 2 spots. We basically see him the same, right? So you had him at 5, I had him at 7.
Yeah, I'll spoil it right here. I didn't have any centers in my top 5, and we'll have the combo when you bring some up, because it's just some interesting combo, like size questions, and a group I actually really enjoyed watching. But I have a lot of questions going into the year that I want to see answered. So I'm excited to go through our top 5s because of that.
All right, number 5 for me, the player's name we already struggled with saying last episode. This is a tackle to what I'm going to say is going to be guard convert at the NFL level. Jonah Savaiinaea, is that how you say it?
Better than anything I came up with last week.
Savaiinaea is how you say his name, I think. He is the right tackle. Yes, right tackle, because I'm remembering Jordan Morgan played left tackle. He's the right tackle. Savaiinaea?
I heard somebody intro him that way in an interview that I thought works around the school, so I wanted to run with it, but now I'm afraid. He's a hell of a football player, though.
He is. He's because you had him pretty high on your tackle
3 for me. Yeah,
so
I want to see him stick there, but I know where you're going, and there's definitely a world where that's the case.
So I got him at IOL 5 here. He's a junior going into this season. Like I mentioned, still plays at Arizona, so he didn't transfer. He's still at Arizona. He's 6'5", 330 pounds. So, the 6'5" label, it's a little bit short for tackle. I think his arms are a little bit short as well. It's part of what makes me feel like he's just going to be a naturally better guard. But as a guard, 6'5", 71st percentile, 330 pounds, 88th percentile. So those are really good numbers, I think, when you throw him into a guard spot there. The thing that I like the most about him is something that you noted of why you think maybe he can survive at tackle. The feet, man. The foot speed that this guy has is just so impressive. The way that he can mirror pass rushers, even speed rushers that I was watching a couple more games of him this morning just because I was trying to stay fresh on all these guys that I've been watching over the last couple of days for the show. And the base for him is super wide. It's low. He can control his pad level. The second the ball is snapped, the feet are firing. He is trying to mirror. He can change directions pretty well. I think he's got really good core strength when guys kind of get into his chest and they get his hands up on him. He can really twist and turn with them and maintain those blocks. So I think that the hand quickness matches the foot quickness as well. He's just a really quick player for a guy who is carrying 330 pounds. Yeah. Now, I will say this. We had this conversation last week's episode, you mentioned some of the just erasing, punishing blocks that he has had. I need to see more from him on a strength level from a play-by-play basis. Like beyond the completely erasing blocks and when you're not necessarily moving a guy off the ball, like I need something more in between. I need much more in between because it feels like it's feast or famine right now. For a guy who's carrying 330, I need a little bit more strength in you. Like there were times when I was watching him go up against pass rushers at the college level that are, I don't know, around 240, 245, like speed rushers. They're knocking him back a little bit. Now they're not totally overpowering him, but you go up against NFL speed rushers that are that weight, you're probably getting knocked back even further. They're handling you a little bit better. And especially if you get to go up against NFL guys that are 255, 265, 270, that's where I'm really worried about you, especially when you talk about moving on to the interior. If you're going up against 3 technique guys that are pushing 300, he's got to get a lot stronger. But I think he's got the frame, the build, like to play stronger. He just,
oh yeah.
I just wonder if he's playing more of a finesse game just because he's playing tackle right now. And I wonder if you move him inside, do we get the best of those abilities that we saw at tackle? And does he almost have this power mindset that he gets to activate a little bit more? And he kind of turns into a little bit different of an offensive lineman. I think that's still there for him because, man, you look at his run. I was shocked about this. When I saw his build, I was really shocked to see his run blocking grades. 49.5 run blocking grade in man gap concepts and 62.6 run blocking grade in zone concepts. Like I figured he was going to be a lot higher than that. And I think there's more in the tank for him to be better. But the potential that his pass protection has because of how quick his feet are and because of how quick his hands are, how smart he is of an offensive lineman, how he's always looking for work, that finisher's mentality is definitely there with him. It's just on a play-by-play basis. I need a higher floor in the strength game from Jonah. And if I get that, I think that you can get a starting guard at the NFL level.
For sure. There's a world where his long-term is at guard. I still think right now I'm going into the season looking at him as a tackle, but you make a really good point about the floor because that's something that, I mean, let's be real. It's arguably the most important aspect when evaluating offensive linemen. Because if you go through the cut-ups and watch the highs,
yeah,
but the floor is the other half of it really bottoms out. I mean, I hate that we go back to this example a lot, but I'll gladly go back to this example because I think it paints a very easy picture for a viewer or a listener. Trevor Penning is the pinnacle example of that. Pinnacle example of that. When I watch Trevor Penning, and not even at the Senior Bowl, I'm talking about just on tape at the FCS level, him absolutely kicking the crap out of somebody. Sure, yeah, there's plenty of those examples on film. There was also plenty of times where he was overwhelmed or he was not quick enough or his hands were wrong. There was a lot of lows that you had to work out of him. Yeah. Where that's what a day 2 offensive lineman looks like, developmental. That's what the word means compared to a day 1 guy that, yeah, there are bad moments, but you still feel like he could be a starter right away. So I think if you take away anything from these offensive line previews, and you highlighted this really, really well, is the floor is so important for this position group. And it let's be real, it just requires a ton of work.
Yeah, it's there can't be a weak link in the armor, right, with offensive line. It just can't. You are only as strong as your weakest link, if you will. Like that's the phrase that a lot of people use. And I'm not trying to sit here and say that, Jonah's like this massive weak link. But when you get to the NFL level, if you're getting dog walked back by the 3 technique multiple times a game, like that's not good. Like you can't really put that player out there.
It's hard to scheme around bad players on your offensive line.
And then you would have to probably shift other players in the offensive line to try to mitigate that, maybe get into spots that you're not comfortable with. So this all seems much harsher than it needs to be on Jonah himself. We're just kind of using it to paint a picture as an example. There's a lot of things that he does really well. I think there's a world where he is certainly a starting offensive lineman at the NFL level. I think it's more likely on the interior. Maybe it's even if he sticks at tackle. But the build, the measurables, but also the good parts of the hand quickness, the foot quickness, like that's something that I think you can build around with him. He's just got to get functionally stronger.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on all of that. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see the strides he makes for an offense that there's expectations for. That Arizona offense, there are big expectations for that group.
Man, the couple of games that I watched this morning, I watched, obviously, naturally, just a handful of more Noah Fafita
Right.
throws. He's so much fun, man.
He's awesome.
I cannot wait to watch him this college football season. He is Bryce Young small when it comes to NFL
Yeah.
draft evaluation, but damn, that kid's fun.
Sneaky EA college football offense.
Yes.
Sneaky.
Dibs on Arizona, 100%.
All right. Should I jump to 4 here?
Yes. Let's do 4.
All right, 4. I'm sticking with Georgia, and it's not their other guard. He was outside of my top 5, but a player I also liked in Dylan Fairchild. He plays left guard for them. This is their tackle, Ernest Greene the third.
Okay.
Greene is 4th for me on the guard list, on the IOL list here. He plays left tackle for them. It is a really interesting eval, and we kind of hinted at this last week on the tackle show because it's no guarantee that he's going to kick inside long term. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's 6'4", 320. But to be fair, Trevor, just because Greene started all 14 games at left tackle for Georgia in 2023 as a redshirt freshman, which is wildly impressive, he's a former 4-star recruit that was the number 2 interior offensive line prospect in the nation.
Right.
This guy was guard all the way coming into college, who landed at left tackle. And when you watch him play, everything to me screams guard in a positive way. Just his build and play style is meant for guard. He's a little top heavy for me right now.
Yeah.
But I do think he is somebody that will be able to drop his hips on the inside and take on power, which is really, really important when you think of a tackle moving to guard. When you ask coaches and evaluators, what do you think the transition is? Because a lot of people make the mistake of going, well, I don't think he's good enough to play tackle, but I like him at guard. That's not how this goes.
Right.
That's not how this goes at all.
You've got to list off why he'd be good at guard.
Right. There are things that are harder to do at guard than tackle, believe it or not. It's almost a combo when people go, well, he's probably just a slot corner. No, that shit is hard as hell. Receivers have a two-way to go. It's a two-way go. It's not that easy. So with guard, I look at Greene and think he's somebody with that density. And I think this is how you felt about Jonah Savaiinaea in the last part, is like when you're built like that, you could take on power from that point A to B rush of dropping your hips and being able to really sink that strength. And I think when you watch him, the highs of him, I think I said this in the last show, but he looks like human C4 when they get him out in front. Like he is looking to absolutely blow people up. And if I get him on the move a little bit more, I know he could down block. I know he could drive block, but I think it's adequate enough where you get him on the move a little more. He's a scary force out in front. And I just go back to his ability to stall speed to power rushers with that wide upper body.
Yeah.
It's just stalling that speed to power rush, which you get to see a lot of it, him playing left tackle, but I think it'll play really, really well at guard. Now, the weaknesses.
Yeah.
Trevor, I thought his top-heavy build clearly impacts his balance against twitch and speed.
Yep.
I did not like that on an island at tackle.
Right.
Like, did you see the same thing with him?
I don't think he's a tackle.
I don't either. And he's not supposed to be, I don't think, anyway.
He's got longer arms than you'd think for a player who's 6'4". Like, it's not like he's got like a fire hydrant build out there. Like, he actually can survive, I think, arm length wise. But it's the fact that you're right. He's got a ton of power in his upper body. But it's just it's too top heavy right now. There's no doubt about it. I think anyone who is calculated with their pass rush moves felt like was able to give him fits at some point during those games that I watched.
I thought the same thing. It gets to my next point. When rushers really attack that outside shoulder and can even dip and bend a little bit, you see the lateral agility lacking. Like you just see. It's not that he's not explosive. It's just the adjustments to twitch, speed, bend, smaller rushers. It's hard for him to consistently take away their space, is what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, this is kind of goes hand in hand with the other two things I said, but I wrote it as a question at the bottom. Maybe it's a loaded question I wrote. Does he have the feet to mirror on an island at tackle at the NFL level?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so right now. And he's... Credit to him, like being the starting left tackle for Georgia as a redshirt freshman when it's really impressive. And I'm not saying he's a bad college tackle, but if I'm looking for the best version of Ernest Greene at the NFL level, I see a lot of big time moments that will transition to guard and mask his deficiencies. And I didn't feel that confidence with the tackle group, and that's why I didn't include him in our tackle show last week.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, and I'm even lower on him than you are. I think that him and fellow Georgia teammate Dylan Fairchild, they're closer toward the back end of my top 10 guards that I have here. Now, look, Greene's a first-year starter, right? He was a redshirt freshman last year. He's a redshirt sophomore this year. There's not even a guarantee that he would even declare after this. We obviously mentioned the measurables for him. You talked about the things he does really well, but to bring up the part of the conversation that we were chatting about transitioning from sometimes we laugh about people who go like, oh, you know, he's not a good tackle, or just kick him into guard. Well, so one of those things that you have to think about when you're transitioning from tackle to guard is you sometimes have to have quicker feet on the interior than you even do at tackle. Now, you obviously need fast footwork at tackle, but you know, your fast footwork at tackle is a lot of times more about your kick slides and your control and the length that you can have on your strides to really be able to protect your outside and inside shoulders. Like, that's what foot speed is there. Foot speed when you're on the interior is the second that ball is snapped, like your feet got to be chopping. Like, you got to be ready, because if a defensive lineman's right in front of you and he's shooting his hands up very quickly, you've got to be able to chop your feet. You got to be balanced. You got to be ready, and you got to be able to get into an anchoring technique very, very quickly. Or if the ball is snapped and nobody's getting into your chest immediately, but there's a stunt coming and the defensive end is crashing from the outside and he's crashing on the interior, again, your feet have to be ready, and you've got to be able to take that on, and you got to be able to kind of move and slide with them and mirror them and kind of take their momentum away from where the quarterback is. And you need fast footwork for that. So yes, I will do this as well. Like if there's a player that we're going to talk about even later in the show who I think the footwork is a little slow, maybe limiting to be able to play on the outside, but I think he can convert back into the inside because he's got the power profile for it. That's kind of the same conversation that I have with Ernest Greene, but I'm ultimately worried about the foot speed. I'm worried about the balance, and he did not anticipate, I would say, change of direction and especially cross the face moves that he will see a lot of on the interior. I saw him struggle with that even on the outside when he was on an island. So this is a player who I think has a ton of upper body strength. I mean, he will bench press you away from where the quarterback is if he can get your hands on you. So you love that about him. But to me, he needs more anticipation. He needs a little bit more finesse to his game. He needs more patience. He needs to understand, okay, you know, it's not about just shoving the guy as far as you possibly can. Sometimes it's about being patient, getting the hands inside, maintaining the blocks. And I think that above anything else, Greene to me needs more experience. And so that's why he's lower on my list. I can see a lot of the power physical gifts for him, but he is still somebody who is improving, and that's totally fine for a guy who's only a redshirt sophomore this year.
Right, and he does not turn 21 years old until, I believe, Halloween. Nice. Birthday, Ernest Greene.
Wow.
That's a positive on the scouting report.
Is it a bad omen?
No, I think that's good.
Is it?
Yeah. I think that means he has that killer instinct. Depends what he is for Halloween. If he's a Teletubby, then no, it's not very good. But
wait, what if he's a killer Teletubby? You know?
And we might be onto something. 320 pounds of killer Teletubby.
Ernest, the killer Teletubby, Greene the Third.
That is a smooth nickname.
I'm sorry. The nickname is actually Ernest Jimmy Greene the Third.
When you don't have a nickname for somebody, they're just Jimmy.
I'm keeping that bit on the show.
I think about it all the time.
I was up last night thinking about it. I was watching House of the Dragon. I was like, oh, what would my dragon be named? Oh, Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Of course.
Or there's just too many of the Targaryens are the absolute pinnacle of reusing names. There's 45 Aegons. There's a million different.
Imagine how much peace Westeros would have if the Targaryens could come up with like more than 5 names.
Yeah, it would give exactly world peace. Or if they just use it, like you call someone Jimmy, that's the 40th Aegon in the show. It would be like, okay. Oh man.
And his firstborn, Jimmy Targaryen.
First of his name. Breaker of chains. Jimmy Targaryen. Rider of dragons. Oh man. All right.
Okay, so 4 for me. hell of a transition. I don't know how we're going to move on here, but Jonah Monheim from USC is
Okay.
fourth. I see in your top five. Well,
he's not. I didn't have a center in my top 5, but I watched a lot of Jonah Monheim, and I saw a lot to like about him.
Redshirt senior going into this year from USC, listed at 6'5", 300 pounds. So even for a center that's light, 300 pounds for a center, just 9th percentile, but 6'5", 74th percentile. So this is somebody who he's been around a while, obviously, as a redshirt senior. He's got a ton of experience, man. Started at right tackle in 2022.
Yeah.
Started at left tackle in 2023. Now they are moving him to center for 2024. And I actually don't know why they're doing that. It is, in my opinion, his best position for the NFL level.
I think it's great news for him.
Right, but we know that, like, it's not Lincoln Riley's job to necessarily put him in the best spot for the NFL level. Like, he's trying to win football games. So I wonder if, like, did USC get a bunch of transfer portal guys at offensive tackle?
His recruiting's probably caught up.
Okay, and
I'm guessing. I'm not. Listen, I'm not a college football fan where I'm ingrained in, and I look these things up when trying to watch these guys, but it's hard to, like, I'm a draft analyst. I know it sounds stupid. I don't know. It is different, but it's not. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, like, USC, like, has this kid that's 20. Like, if he's not draft eligible, there's a good chance that I just haven't seen enough of that kid.
No, that's fair. That's true. That's true. Look, he was a 3-star offensive tackle recruit, so playing offensive tackle made sense. But I think the measurables for him, I think the arm length's a little bit smaller than 6'5". Obviously, 6'5" offensive tackle. What would 6'5" be? That would be 30th percentile. So I think just measurable wise, he's not going to stick a tackle for the NFL level. And even when he's a tackle, now he was successful, right? Like, he graded really well, especially in pass protection, but he doesn't have these, like, big, like long strides in his kick slides. Like, his groin isn't, like, super flexible where he's stretching all the way out and he's able to really, reach speed rushers that are trying to get up the arc. And his base is a little bit more narrow than it is wide. And so he just doesn't look like an offensive tackle, but he survives at offensive tackle because, Connor, he's so damn smart.
Yeah, he is.
I watched 2 games of him and I had so many strengths that I wrote down for his scouting report. Sound anchoring technique to handle power despite only being 300 pounds. I noticed that consistently. The hands are up, active, and well-placed at punch all the time from every single snap. Very high level of awareness for offensive line play. He can see when stunts and twists are coming. He can see where late blitzers are coming. He knows whether he needs to jump set somebody, 45 set somebody, deep set somebody, whatever it is. Like, he understands what the opponent wants to do against him, and he uses that to his advantage. I also think he's got very fast footwork, despite him not really covering a ton of ground on his kick slides with, just the overall stride length and the stretch. The feet are pretty quick. So when you take that and you move it onto the interior, well, all of a sudden that weakness of not covering a lot of ground, that gets mitigated because you have that fast footwork to you. So all of that is there for him. To me, he understands how to win at the position so well. 87.8 pass blocking grade, 78.9 pass block grade on true pass sets, a 69.9 run blocking grade in man gap concepts, a 71.1 run blocking grade in zone concepts, a wins above replacement metric of 0.11. I think this dude's awesome. I just think the floor is so high for Jonah Monheim. And he was somebody who, again, I watched last year, and I thought he was good enough to come to the NFL. And he didn't. Goes back for another year. I think it's probably because he believes he's an interior offensive lineman. The NFL.
It was a mutual decision, by the way. I looked it up. Lincoln Riley said it's best for his long term, and he said he's been interested playing on the inside for a while now.
And I think, going back to what I was just saying, like, I think the NFL probably told him that, right?
Oh, these guys get that feedback,
right? So he probably put his name in the NFL Draft Advisory Board, and they were probably like, "Hey, man, we like you." And no NFL team's going to see you as a tackle. So you need to get Tate out there of you playing on the interior, and I think center is his best position to do it. So the high football IQ and just understanding how to win at the position, leverages, walling guys off, just so like different techniques, the patience that he has. If you remember the offensive tackle episode, I'm a sucker for offensive linemen that can remain patient in a chaotic, frenetic environment that is snap-to-snap basis play of playing in the trenches. And to me, Monheim already shows that the game is slowed down for him. And to me, I think he's going to be a fantastic center, and he's a IOL 4 for me going into the year.
There's so much to like about him. You talked about that athleticism and movement skills, like reach blocking, cutting guys off, getting out in front. Not only how the way he's graded out in outside zone, but the tape is just, it's marvelous in outside zone. And I think also something, this is probably what they're thinking as well. Like, honestly, Trevor, your most experienced offensive lineman being the center next year helps the change at quarterback as well. I mean, Monheim has spoken about how it's the same offense and there's experience in the offense now, and you have that guy as the anchor in the middle. It gives comfort to everybody there. Yep. So whether it's calling out protections, and it, like we said, mutual decision, it's the best for his long-term move as well. I would say, like I said, I didn't have a center in my top 5. He was my favorite one I watched.
Okay.
I think so. There's one that I liked the tape better, but there is a giant caveat that just college football,
we're going to talk
scouting,
about it,
and we're going to talk about it. It'll all make sense when
we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about him in very soon. Actually, we're going to talk about him very soon. Who do you have at 3?
Jaeden Roberts, who
nice. Okay.
is just
the Incredible Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk,
literally a superhero among us.
This man
could fight Thanos with the Power Stone,
probably.
And when I say that, I mean Thanos has the Power Stone.
Roberts, his strength is unbelievable. Last year, thrusted into starting for the first time, really throughout his career at Alabama in a long-term situation. He's a redshirt junior going into this year, 6'5", 316. He'll be Alabama's right guard. He started 8 games at right guard last year. Former 4-star recruit out of Houston, Texas. This is just a heavy-handed bulldozer, Trevor. I mean, heavy-handed bulldozer. And it's not, beating up on the minnow programs that you get the highlights from. There's some moments of him throwing guys on that Michigan defensive line around. That Michigan defensive line was loaded with high-end NFL talent.
Yeah.
Like down blocking, he can truly single-handedly take a nose tackle out of the play. That's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to have these combo blocks on nose tackles or force them to move. They can go downhill and have Jaeden Roberts haymaker a nose tackle. Like, that's the kind of strength we're talking about here with him. Now, you're hearing all this and wondering, like, wow, he sounds like the perfect guard for the NFL. And I'm really excited about him this year. He has a habit of lunging and bending his waist and lowering his head when he does not need to. This guy is as strong as they come. Just drop the hips and take on that. And it's the double-edged sword, right? You love the aggression this guy plays with and how that factors into football games. But there's times where he gets burned by it, where he wants to erase people, and it shows some flaws in pass protection, where he gets beat that way. And the thing I was trying to figure out, I was like, does he have slower feet, or are these bad habits with his upper body and pass pro impacting his feet?
I think he's got slow feet.
I think his feet were a little slow.
Yeah.
Honestly. This is really low-hanging fruit. But you look at the offensive line, and the way the scheme is gravitated for Sean McVay's run game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the guy that McVay would want. And I know they just paid a ton of money to all those guards, and they're set for a long time. But trying to visualize the NFL offense, the way McVay's gone to these brawlers that can block downhill, that's what Roberts is.
Yeah.
If you want him moving around and, he's a man scheme run block. This is old school dirty 90s guard. But there's a big portion in the NFL that wants that right now. And he's a difference maker. And I want to also, put in the note that last year was his first extended look at starting. If he builds on that, because I loved what I saw last year despite the flaws in pass pro, I mean, you're talking about somebody that could be a top 70, top 60 kind of pick pretty easily with his power.
Yeah, look, positively graded run plays, which is one of the stable metrics that we have for interior offensive linemen. 18.1%. That's 84th percentile. I mean, this dude is just moving you off the ball, and it feels like it is effortlessly. In fact, you know what? Bruce Feldman. Bruce, I know you're watching and listening. Huge fan of your work. We reference the Freaks List all year round here on this show. It's one of my favorite articles that gets published every single year. I need you to go to Alabama and get me numbers on what this guy benches and squats and deadlifts.
Bruce needs to spot him.
Because
I don't want the number. I want Bruce spotting Jaeden Roberts.
I mean, true. Yeah. No, I want Bruce as the lockout combine guy when he's, throwing up 225 for the 55th time.
Bruce is shaking up the creatine and the protein after for Jaeden Roberts.
I watched it was like a TikTok video, or maybe it was a YouTube video, whatever. And somebody was going around asking every single person on Alabama's football team, all the players, who's the strongest player on the team? Connor. Every single one of them, without hesitation, Jaeden Roberts, Jaeden Roberts, Jaeden Roberts. At Alabama, you got freak shows of strength at Alabama. And we've got a consensus, no question about it. The second you hear the question, I'm saying this guy's name type of a player. I could not find any of his weightlifting numbers. And so, Bruce, please, for the people, I need to see how much weight this dude throws up. I need to see it. There was an offensive lineman, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Seth McLaughlin, actually, their center, who's now at Ohio State. And they asked him this question. He's like, oh, it's Jaeden, no question about it. He's like, he said, I don't know if we've ever put enough weight on the bar that he could not lift. Which is like the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. The Incredible Hulk, truly. He's one of the strongest guys in this class. But yeah, look, the first year of him being a regular starter this past year, it does not necessarily have the anticipation to match up against speed. If he can't get his hands on you in the right spots, speed guys will really get the better of him. Even the guys who are interior offensive linemen who like to get across the face, he just doesn't anticipate it well enough. He doesn't have the foot quickness to be able to make up for that lack of anticipation. So both of those things I think need to get better. You mentioned he lunges a little bit too much. There's no need for him to do that. He can sit there. He can have a flat back and sit there with good posture, and he'll be able to take on anybody that's coming at him. I have no doubt about that. So I think he just needs to have confidence in that as well. He was not in my top 5. He was, where was he for me? 7. And he was my 5th guard that I had that I categorized here.
Pass pro, it's just got to get better, but I don't know. You want someone to just transform the identity of your run game. Like I would take mediocre NFL pass protector for this guy because of what he could do in the run game.
You're going to have teams that are going to because here's the thing with Roberts, he's not just strong. Like he's special strong. And it's like there's a difference, right? Because it's not the same conversation as saying like, oh, would you rather the question that you just posed? Oh, I would take him being a middling pass blocker for the strength that I get here. It's not a simple, oh, would you rather have a powerful guy or would you rather have a finesse guy? No. It's like all world power. This is a different conversation when you talk about the power that he's bringing to the table. So he's just crazy. Bruce, we know you're out there. We know you're listening. We know you're an addict. Please. Get us the numbers for Jaeden Roberts. We need it.
I think the quote you were talking about was from their running back, Roydell Williams, who said, I came in yesterday in the weight room. He had plates on plates on plates on plates.
No, that was Connor. That's a different quote. That's crazy. Another quote. Just
everybody's talking about him.
That's another quote.
Everyone. Yeah, we need the numbers. We need the numbers.
We do. All right, you ready for it?
Yes, I know who it is, but please.
Interior offensive lineman 3, Parker Brailsford.
Yes.
The center from Washington.
He can just host the pod.
I don't care.
The tape is phenomenal.
redshirt sophomore going into this year, okay? So he was a redshirt freshman last year. He is at Alabama right now. He was at Washington last year. So when DeBoer went over from Washington to Alabama, Brailsford followed him over, and they form the best offensive trio in the country of interior offensive linemen.
It's
Tyler
stupid.
Booker, Jaeden Roberts, Parker Brailsford. It is insane because the deficiencies that we're about to talk about with Brailsford, both of those two superhuman strong dudes next to him make up for it. This is without question, in my opinion, the best interior offensive line in the country. Brailsford is going to be a big reason why. I talked about some of the weaknesses. All right, ready for him? 6'2", 12th percentile, 275 pounds, 0th percentile.
Listed. Not like verified.
He is 275, and the second that you pop on that tape, you see that he is 275.
Yeah, he looks like a tight end playing center.
It's not like you go, hey, maybe he's No. He is very clearly 275. And when I saw 275 on the measurables for him, before I watched his tape, I was like, why are you wasting my time?
Yeah, it makes you feel that way.
Why am I talking about this player? Because 0th percentile, that's not just like making up for being an outlier. That's the outlier of outliers. Ain't nobody in the NFL playing at 275 in the trenches. Nobody. Not even Jason Kelce.
Not even Jason Kelce.
Now, the best version of Parker Brailsford is going to be Jason Kelce, right?
Right.
The dream. That's what it has to be. Because the strengths, I'll give a little bit of background. 3-star interior offensive lineman from Scottsdale, Arizona. Also lettered in track in the shot put and the discus, which I feel like a handful of these guys actually were big track and field guys in the shot put and the discus. Redshirted his first season, so he didn't even play. Last year was his first season playing. Started all 15 games. He started 2 at right guard, which is freaking hilarious that a 275 dude starting at right guard for any program. And
it's almost Where's Waldo. When I watched those games, I was like, whoa, like there he is.
Dude, so he started 13. He started those 2 at guard, and then he started 13 at center. I wanted to write this guy off. I really did.
I'm not gonna lie, same, but you can't.
I wanted to be like, I'm gonna watch one game of this player. I'm gonna tell you he's not gonna make it in the league, and I'm gonna move on with my day. I'm gonna go make a turkey sandwich or something. Instead, I'm one game in to Brailsford, and I'm like, all right. And here's the thing, Connor, I didn't watch them against Cheeks competition. The 3 games that I watched for Brailsford, the Pac-12 championship game against Oregon, the college football playoff against Texas, and the national championship game against Michigan.
I did the same thing.
Those are the 3 games that I watched because I was like, that's NFL level competition. Don't tell me who you're going up against of guys who are not going to make it in the league and you're sitting here at 275 and you're trying to play this magic trick on me. I watched him against legit NFL competition. The quickness and the explosiveness are huge advantages for him. Massive. We figured that you would write that down in the strengths category because he's much lighter weight. I mean, he explodes off the ball. The foot quickness to angle and wall off is as good as it gets. The hand quickness, hand fighting, extremely impressive in both its speed, but also, Connor, its precision. Like, he snaps the football, he takes one step, his hands are inside immediately, and they are at a point where they have leverage, they have strength, they have angles to their favor, and all of a sudden, you get these, I'm watching 320-pound defensive tackles go, whoa, what's going on here? And now all of a sudden, the ball is either out or the running back is out beyond the line of scrimmage. And Brailsford, just the quickness in which he attacks you is so ferocious that it even negates guys that outweigh him by 50 pounds, which never happens with small centers. But he is, I'll tell you this too, his ability, we talk about this all the time, but Parker Brailsford's ability to use his natural leverage to his advantage is at another level.
Yeah.
He gets off the line of scrimmage, especially when he is zone blocking. His little feet start firing. His hands get fully extended inside these defensive tackles. And he is taking these 320-pound dudes for a ride. And I'm like, how are you doing this? How is he doing this? That's the question that I kept asking the entire time I was watching this dude's tape. How is he doing this? It should not be possible at 275.
Athleticism and technique.
Just to a T. But
right,
also,
it's beautiful.
But also, I think pound for pound, he's strong. He's strong at 275.
Without a doubt.
Dude, the grip strength is so impressive from this dude. He is feisty as hell. He will not let go. There is so much that I loved about this player. It was so difficult for me to like keep his preseason grade like realistic for a 275-pound offensive lineman.
Like never been done before.
Never been done before.
That's the point.
And here's the thing. The risky part about this is he is either Jason Kelce, who is one of the greatest offensive linemen over the last decade and a half, or he is going to be out of the league. Plain and simple. It's one of the two. And it's scary that I'm even entertaining the fact that he could be closer to Jason Kelce.
Is there a world where he can be Aaron Brewer, the now starting center for the Dolphins, who got a pretty good contract in free agency this year that was on the Titans? He was undrafted, and he became a starter for the Titans after 2 years. But Brewer came into the league at 274 pounds. But he just flies. Like Brewer will get walked back into the pocket. It's, you kind of know what you're signing up for with him. Now, Mike McDaniel, with the way his run game works, is willing to, live with that because he loves his athleticism. But the Titans, I know there was some lower moments there. Like, are we just living in that world where there are opportunities for these guys? Brewer's a massive outlier, by the way.
274, 100%.
By the way, before I forget, I have to say this, because when I watched Brailsford, I also thought of Kendrick Greene. You remember Kendrick Greene 2 years ago?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Greene, that's a little bit of a different combo, because Greene came into his pre-draft measurement at 6'1" and 7/8, 305. Greene was probably playing at 290, 295 when he was at Illinois. But size was always the question with Greene. He ended up being a third-round pick. Didn't work out in Pittsburgh. He got traded to the Texans. Here's what I need to say. Like, very quietly beneath us, the NFL changed Kendrick Greene's listing to 6'4", 315.
What?
I'm telling you. His NFL page and his Pro Football Reference page, which I'm assuming Pro Football Reference just uses the NFL page, he is now 6'4", 315. When Greene was not 6'2" before the draft and barely 300 pounds. The reason I bring all this up is
the fix is in.
The fix is in, by the way. We've been bamboozled.
He was 6'1" and 7/8 and 305 when he was.
And that was like a Bryce Young, like drinking a gallon of milk 305 kind of thing.
The fix is in.
Either way, the point is,
Jason Kelce is listed at like 295.
Yeah, and his combine, he was 280, right?
Correct. I bet Kelce played in the NFL around like 285.
I bet he did too.
Yeah.
Just Kelce. Like, you can't tell him shit.
Well, of course not.
Like,
no, he's a Hall of Famer.
He doesn't need to show up to camp. Hey, Kelce,
why would I?
Weight? He'd look at you and throw the scale at your face. Like, right. The point is, you're just desperately trying to grasp onto guys that have had similar roads. And you nailed it, Trevor. Like, there just aren't a lot. So we're going to see where it goes, because the tape is A+, in my opinion.
Crazy. Anyways, who you got at 2?
At 2, I have Donovan Jackson from Ohio State.
Okay. All right.
Wow. I'll just start with that. Phenomenal tape for Jackson, who's a senior at Ohio State. He's 6'3" and 3/8, 318 pounds, classic guard build.
Mm-hmm.
This is someone who came to the program as a 5-star recruit as guard. He, I believe, ranked as the top player coming out of Texas in his class.
Yeah.
He has started 26 consecutive games at left guard for Ohio State heading into 2024. I don't have a lot of weaknesses for him, to be honest with you. This is someone who has ideal proportionate mass for the position. Like, the body is what you look for at guard. His head is on a swivel at all times. He is highly, highly competitive, rep after rep. If there's not work coming his way, he is looking for work. He's looking to help teammates. He is very aware pre-snap when the team is running a stunt at him. The grip strength and pass protection he can lock onto guys in pass pro for extended periods of time. And think about the quarterbacks that have played in this offense with him under there, especially Stroud. Drop back passer, maybe some longer developing routes with the great wide receivers they have. This is somebody that, like, you watch pass protection reps where it's a true pass set, and he's out there blocking for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. It's wildly impressive. And when you look at his ability in outside zone, this is somebody that's very quick off the ball and very coordinated in his routes to get to his zones. Like, he understands the quickest path and how to get on top of linebackers at the second level where they can't really fit the run in time. He's just there. And he's not going to be a 99th percentile athlete. That's not what I'm saying. But I just think he is technically sound. He's highly competitive. He is clearly one of the dudes that is a leader at that program. And he has a ton of starting experience that just drips on the tape. I thought Donovan Jackson was one of those prospects you walk away and you just feel so good about the player. I'm not writing down like future Pro Bowl, all pro kind of player, but I think this dude's going to start in the NFL at a pretty adequate level for a long time.
There is a lot to like about Donovan Jackson. And I will say this, he was getting a lot of love last summer scouting. And I remember I watched him and I was like, man, I still think he's got a ways to go. Like, I remember watching his 2022 tape and I thought he did not play with enough power. I thought he was a little bit too finesse. He was leaning on his athleticism a bit too much. He was playing a little out of control. I just thought he was not close to the top 50 product. A lot of people were like, oh yeah, he's good to go here, even like last summer.
And he clearly didn't get that feedback.
Right. And obviously he's still in college football, I think, for a reason. Last year was better. I will say that. I thought he was a better football player last year. I thought he played with power a little bit more consistently. I still feel like he flirts with playing fast and playing out of control. Like, he's a really good athlete, but I still feel like there were too many reps where I was watching, like, where boom, he's like getting out of his stance and the arms are like, they're like kind of like flailing about. And then all of a sudden, he hits contact a little bit earlier than he thinks he was going to. And then all of a sudden, okay, well, now the hands aren't exactly where they're supposed to be. I felt like he was still a little bit too out of control. He could play with a little bit more patience. And I do still feel like he can play consistently with a little bit more power. But this is a player who brings you the mold, I would say, of a guy who you're not sitting there and crowning him as an all-pro yet.
No.
This guy's got the tools, though. Like, he absolutely, this is a high ceiling type of interior offensive lineman. He didn't make my top 5 just because I'm still waiting for him to, I don't know, maybe I'm just too much of a hater now at this point, but when I watch him, maybe I'm comparing him to his ceiling too much versus like where he is versus his peers. And that might be the case. Maybe I just have such high hopes for what the finished product of Donovan Jackson could be that when I don't see it, I kind of punish him a little bit, which would be unfairly, I will certainly admit. But I had him right outside of my top 5 interior offensive linemen. I think he was guard 6 for me. So I liked what I saw from him in 2023. I would like for him to play a little bit more in control and with a little bit more power. And I think if we do that, we'll talk about a guy who could potentially be that top 50 pick that everybody saw.
And blocking for Judkins, like, you're going to see a lot on his plate this year. Everybody's going to have eyes on him. So it's good that Ohio State gets that kind of player with that kind of experience back for another year.
Yeah. So interior offensive lineman 2 for me. We don't have to talk too much about it. This is Emery Jones for me from LSU.
Okay. Yep.
Emery's awesome. I think that, and I'm not, this is in no way a shot like at the graphics team or at all whatsoever, because it's my rankings 100%, but they're tweeting out like the PFF.
Did you get cooked?
No, I didn't get cooked. There's people
who got cooked.
I didn't quite get sous vide in the comments.
I've gotten filleted. Like, it's one of those times where you're like, you know what? It's probably good I didn't get tagged in this.
No. But they posted my top offensive tackles, which were my rankings, and Emery Jones is lower because I see some deficiencies with him playing at tackle. And, I had some people comment on those rankings and they're like, where is Emery Jones? Where is Emery Jones? And it's like, okay, that's actually fair. I have him as IOL 2. Like, I think he's a really damn good interior offensive lineman. He's just playing tackle right now. Now he plays right tackle. You talked so much about what you liked about him on last week's episode, and I agree with a lot of what you said. He Started as a true freshman last year. LSU, by the way, their right tackle. 6'4.5", 320 pounds for a guard. That's 61st percentile and 71st percentile. He's a junior going into this season. He was one of 3 true freshman offensive linemen who started for the 2022 LSU team. 2023, he started again. He started 24 straight games, all at right tackle for them. Also was a 2-time state champion in high school, and he played basketball as well, which I love the multi-sport background and the success in high school background. Those are things that I actually think matter, that you have a little bit of X factor for. The hands are up, they're active, they're powerful at punch, really strong grip strength. Looks like his frame can carry even more weight and strength if he got to the next level and they wanted to throw a little bit more weight on him. The reason why I think that he's more of an interior guy than a tackle, feet are a little bit heavy. They're powerful, but they're a little bit slower. It makes it more difficult to mirror when you're on an island and he can't get his hands on guys. And, going into that, he does look like he has shorter arm length. So to me, sort of the conversations that we were having about some of these other guys earlier in the show, I think his strengths get stronger and his weaknesses get masked more if you put him in at guard. And I think that he is a really good offensive lineman. I just love what he can be in his ceiling at guard. And so I've got him as the second best interior offensive lineman in this class.
Yeah, there's going to be a conversation around Jones that, you're tapping into, where it's not that he can't play tackle. It's that, would he be better at guard? And we have this conversation around Troy Fatanu, right? These conversations, and it's not that everybody has the perfect science or perfect answer. It's just that I thought he was such a mauler and brawler that I know he can play on the inside. I think that he's also just so young right now that I want to see him try to work out some of the bad habits he has at tackles, which was, bending the waist, his lower half not in sync with his upper half, keeping that pad level, in a good place. But he was a tackle for me, like Savaiinaea, and we'll see what transpires throughout the season. Well, do we have the same damn guard at number 1? I'm surprised about this.
I think we do. Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't be surprised because he's just a phenomenal player.
I was going to say, he's good. What do you mean?
I mean, it's crazy to say this because it doesn't happen very often, but I feel very confident this is a round 1 guard in Tyler Booker from Alabama.
Yeah. I think so too. I'm sometimes wary of guards getting. I'm wary of giving guards round 1 labels when they're not like Quinn freaking Nelson preseason.
Right.
But I think I would feel a lot more comfortable in December if Booker has another fantastic season going. Yeah, okay, somebody's going to draft this guy in round 1.
Well, here's the question that I'll bring up, because this is every much as a team building show as it is an NFL draft scouting show. In an offseason where we just saw unprecedented money go to Landon Dickerson to stay with the Eagles, Robert Hunt to go to the Panthers. I believe Zach Martin ultimately got reworked, his deal. That's not really a conversation for this, though. Jonah Jackson to the Rams. Kevin Dotson staying with the Rams. Not too long ago, Joe Tooney to the Chiefs. Damian Lewis, big deal to the Panthers. When does the combo flip back to, I'm not saying top 10, I'm not even saying top 15, but when a guard is one of the best, top 15 player in the draft, that you do take him in the first round, because I don't want to be on the free agent market giving $100 million to one that's not even as good.
No, it's a really good point. And I think that teams are probably starting to be willing to have those conversations. I think that there's a lot of really good players who could either be labeled as guards or tackle guard converts this year that I think we might have those conversations about. Like, what did Peter Skronsky? What did he go? 7? Right?
He went really damn early. I thought it was like 10th.
Was it 10th? Can't remember exactly where it was.
Too many drafts.
Whatever. He's a guard. Like, they put him at guard immediately.
He went 11th.
11. They put him at guard immediately. They drafted him as a guard at 11. So it's not like they drafted him, because if they thought he was a tackle at all whatsoever, they probably would have put him at tackle to start.
Yeah,
so they drafted him first as a pure guard at 11. I don't think you're far-fetched with that.
I'll do a quick run through on Booker, and then I want to toss to you because he's both number 1 for us, and I don't want to eat up all the breadcrumbs here. Started 12 games at left guard in 2023. Former 5-star recruit out of the well-known IMG Academy.
Hell yeah.
He was one of the top offensive tackles in his recruiting class, I believe.
Yes, he was offensive tackle.
This dude, his lower half is built like an oak tree. Like you turn on the tape and you're watching Alabama's offensive line where everybody's kind of built like, just an absolute truck.
Brick shithouse.
This is different. This is one of those California trees. I mean,
do you see what he's listed at this year? Wait,
I had 352.
352, baby.
Start with that. 6'5", 352, and I don't think it's an ugly 352.
Slabs.
I mean, it's just 352, like H2. He's 9 miles a gallon.
He is 100%.
You love to see it, though.
Yeah.
It looks cool. It can mow through everything. I mean, what does it really need to be said? Like, rushers cannot generate any power through this guy.
Yeah.
They just run into the wall. The strength he develops from his base and generates from his base is elite. But you know what? For a guy built like this and that could just play, I'm the strongest guy out on the trenches, and I could play the. I think he is smart as hell. Like so smart. High IQ, sees stunts, shows off awareness, sees delayed blitzers, knows who needs help, knows who doesn't, understands the passing concept of what technique he has to use on certain drops. The power and density he has in the run game, it just engulfs defenders. Like there's run snaps where they look like they are just getting, slapped around. Like they have no answer for his strength. They really don't have a counter to him. They're just so overwhelmed by the power from him. I mean, some little weaknesses I wrote down, Trevor, and it wasn't anything, glaring. When he has a really special twitchy and speed rusher in front of him, he'll bend at times. I think at times in outside zone, he doesn't always land on his marks at the second level. He's a step slow in outside zone when they ask him to climb, but it's not all the time.
352.
He's 352, right? Like,
I think he played last year at like 340.
Yeah, he casually added 12 pounds of muscle. I mean, what is there to say? This guy's awesome. He's a first round guard.
I think he's a really good football player. He reminded me of Trey Smith. And just Trey Smith, just an overall size, imposing figure on the interior offensive line, what he has been to the Kansas City Chiefs, what he was at Tennessee when he was coming out for the Vols program. My little scouting summary of Booker. Booker is an impressive guard prospect, listed at 6'5", 350 pounds. That size gives him a ton of natural power in both his upper and lower halves for success in man gap run scheme plays. He has a strong wide base, can recover well against stunts or cross-face moves with excellent core strength. His hands are more narrow in pass pro, but that can sometimes be a good thing. It helps him punch inside more consistently, but it does also sometimes make it easier for defenders to swipe the hands away. So it's just something you kind of got to think about with his style. Foot speed can be a bit slow on the hoof, but when he is shuffling and recovering, they are pretty quick. Though he was an offensive tackle recruit, he likely doesn't have offensive tackle foot speed or length. He can be a top-tier starting caliber offensive guard at the NFL level. The other part about him, which maybe this was just the kind of games I watched, which somebody wanted us to know what games we watch of players. So for Booker, I watched Texas, I watched Georgia, and then I watched the Michigan game in the college football playoff. I feel like his balance was off at times, but not like consistently. It was kind of weird. Like there were some plays where he was too much weight on his heels. There was other times where he was too much weight on his toes, and I didn't see enough consistency to actually write something down. Like, oh, he's a little too heels heavy. He's a little too toes heavy. It was just I don't know. Maybe it was a weird 2 games that I watched of him, but it's something that I'll note kind of going into the season. But it's hard to not see Booker, the size, the strength, the foot quickness, the experience now, the football IQ, and not think that you don't have a starting guard on your hand. Yeah,
it's just all there. Sometimes this is not hard. A lot of times it is. Yeah, and a lot of times we screw up. Screw this damn thing up. Like we steer the ship the wrong way or get off the wrong exit. But this one, I didn't struggle with this one.
Yeah.
I watched it. And of course he was the first guard that I watched. I'd watched tackles that I thought should be guards.
Mm.
But he was the first guard I watched, and I go, oh, cool. Plugged him right into guard 1 on the sheet and expected, like, hey, you never know. Maybe he can move around, but probably not. And then
Probably not.
Double-digit guards later, and he never moved.
Nope.
It was so easy.
All right, there we go. Those are our top 5 interior offensive linemen. Just to recap. Jonah Savaiinaea. I don't know how you say his last name.
Nailed it. Run with it.
I don't know.
Be confident.
I tried.
Keep going.
Savaiinaea. I don't know.
Conviction. Now we're all over the place.
Jonah from Arizona, the right tackle from Arizona, who I think is going to kick inside into guard. Jonah Monheim from USC, who's played offensive tackle for them the last 2 years. I think he's going to kick inside to center. I got him at 4. Parker Brailsford played center at Washington. Now he's going to play center at Alabama. I got him at number 3. Emery Jones playing right tackle at LSU. I think he's going to play guard at the NFL level. And then Tyler Booker from Alabama. I have him at number 1.
You love to see it. All right, my top 5 here. I had Tate Ratledge, Georgia's right guard, at number 5. At number 4, I had Georgia's left tackle, Ernest Greene III, who I think will be a NFL guard. At number 3, I had Alabama's right guard in Jaeden Roberts. At number 2, I had Ohio State's longtime starter at left guard in Donovan Jackson. And number 1, Tyler Booker, Alabama's other guard, who is just a marvelous prospect.
The only guy that I really wanted to also name, number 6 for me on this list, in the interior offensive line list, Luke Kandra, the offensive guard, the right guard for Cincinnati. He's somebody that I was pretty impressed with. He was a redshirt senior going into this season, 6'4", 320 pounds. It's 45th percentile, 71st percentile. I just thought he was a really smart offensive lineman. The strengths that I have listed for him: consistent hand location, dictates contact on his own terms, high IQ and awareness, really well distributed weight to stay balanced through all sorts of twists and turns, really strong grip strength as well. He can be an erasing second level blocker as well. Weaknesses: he bends a bit too much at the waist, which kind of negatively impacts the balance. Needs to get stronger and more reliable in man gap blocking scheme situations at an NFL standard. There are times when I think he overruns his blockers when he really just doesn't need to, but former 4-star interior offensive lineman, started his career at Louisville, played there from 2020 to 2022, transfers over to Cincinnati. I played offensive guard and defensive tackle in high school. Also, he played basketball in high school. Also finished 10th in the shot put in the state championship, 15th in the discus throw. So it's like, I love the multi-sport background. I love how the guy approaches the position. He's well-rounded. He's really smart. I think Luke Kandra from Cincinnati is somebody who's going to go under the radar to start this college football and draft season, that we're going to be talking about him when next draft season rolls around. I really do believe that.
I'm excited to get eyes on him then. If you had him at 6, that's pretty high praise. He's on my list. Did not have the time, unfortunately, there was a couple of guys that I didn't get to watch that are on. People always ask, like, do you have this guy? Do you have this guy? Kandra, Walker Parks from Clemson, Wyatt Bowles from Utah State, Charles Grant from William and Mary, and Inez Cooper from Miami. Those are guys that I will watch this summer that I didn't get to before this show. Other guys I did watch that weren't in my top 5. I forgot to tell you this one before the show that I forgot. Gray Zabel from North Dakota State.
I didn't watch him.
North Dakota State always has a guy that is just, he's like under 300 pounds.
Yeah, he's the fullback / left tackle.
Yeah, and he's at the Senior Bowl, and everyone's like, wow, this guy rules. And then, they always got one. They got another one this year. I know we both watched Clay Webb.
Yep.
Who's at Jacksonville State, transferred from Georgia. Talked about Fairchild, mentioned him already a little bit. And then the centers, of course. Joshua Gray's played tackle for Oregon State for a long time. I think he's a center at the next level.
Yeah.
You brought up Brailsford and Monheim. I watched both of them.
I also watched at center. I think Clay Webb's a center, by the way. He's playing guard for Jacksonville State. He's a former 5-star center from Georgia. You just see it in his movement skills and his measurables. I think if he's going to survive at the NFL level, it's going to be at center.
He doesn't have the mass for NFL guard.
Right. He's kind of built like a guard, but he doesn't have the mass for it. I think
his lower half was not what you would expect.
Right. I watched Jake Slaughter, the center from Florida. I still think he just needs more experience. He's just a little too light. Same for Jagger Burton. Incredible name, by the way.
Jagger.
Yeah. Truly, just
parents are definitely Rolling Stones fans.
I mean, you have to be. If you're not, then I'm just.
I have questions.
You, yeah. That's all it is. So I thought that those guys more speed, finesse type of players, but both of them just were a little too light for me. Those are guys who are 200. Jake Slaughter's 297 pounds. Burton's listed at 307. I think he's probably a little bit lighter. Finesse guys, zone blocking guys, but they need to play with more power. Both of them did not score well enough in run blocking grades, especially Burton. I guess Slaughter did in zone blocking plays, but these guys got to get stronger. So I think that's what we really need to see from both those players.
One player, and I think I said this on the tackle pod because he plays tackle as well. Darius Washington from Florida State. He's played center and tackle for Florida State. I'm assuming because they already have a center, he is going to stay at tackle for them this year. But I like the little film that you see of him at center. Maurice Smith is their center. He might be a prospect for us in this class, but I thought Darius Washington should play center at the next level. I think we'll talk about him when the time comes, but he's going to probably finish out his college career at left tackle this year. And I think that put a bow on watching this offensive line class. Can you believe we're done with the offense for summer scouting?
I know. So
big picture, how do you feel about the offensive prospects? I don't feel like wow, but there's definitely some wow players.
The running back class is stacked.
What running back class is stupid, and I think we're treated quite well at wide receiver again.
Yeah, wide receivers really good. We might be able to turn this into a full episode.
Right? Am I just
we might have just did the pod on the pod. You might have just
like a summer scouting offense recap.
Yeah,
I think people would probably hopefully enjoy that.
I wonder because I'm gonna have to have these guys listed anyways, so I might be able to big board like 50.
That's when you really get sauteed in the comments.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Like the top comments, just worst rankings I've ever seen.
We're slow roasting. People are gonna. Yeah. The title of it is gonna say offense only, like top 50, and people are gonna be like, "Where's JT Tuimoloau?" And it's like, read, please.
It never gets old. This idiot didn't even watch James Pierce.
You're right. I didn't.
Oh man, I love this profession.
Will Johnson,
I really
maybe?
do. Oh man, it's so good.
No, but actually, this might not be a terrible episode idea. Because I'm gonna have to organize my thoughts on these offensive guys, anyways, just for preliminary PFF big board reasons. So I might come up with a top 50, and we might just do an overall offensive episode and maybe just give our thoughts in between the offense and defensive side of summer scouting stuff.
So is this a top 50 offensive big board?
Yeah.
I would be down to clown.
Okay.
With that.
All right.
Yeah. I've never done it that way, but
I don't think we have either, but I think if I was looking at the schedule correctly, we do have an extra week in our schedule that we need to fill. And I don't want to just do like a super random one.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't want to do as much, like, as fun as these ideas are. I don't want to do summer scouting episodes and then redrafting the 2022 NFL draft. And then
what we really could do if we need one random episode is like reviewing EA CFB player rankings, but not everybody plays video games, but that would be fun.
I don't care.
Yeah, I know. I'm very into. I thought about this like today at some point, and I meant to bring it up to you in private conversations, but we basically have all our private conversations on the podcast at this point.
Dude, I kind of like that.
I know. And it also times up pretty close to when we are going to
When does it come out?
Well, the early access is like a week from now. But we'll get the rankings. We will get the rankings this week.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that I think they're revealing the rankings.
Oh, dude, that'd be hot for SEO too.
I mean, YouTube would put it on the front page for everyone. Like every country. You could live in the North Pole and your YouTube front page is
your main YouTube page is like Swedish anime, and you're still just NFL Stock Exchange. What they think of the 20 or the NCAA 25 player rankings?
I think we go even. I think we go even more generic than that. The fellas review EA CFP rankings, and it's just both of us like. I think it would blow up.
All right, this actually has legs. We're actually going to talk this out and perhaps even do this episode. If you guys want this episode, if you want us to do some sort of a review for college football's player rankings as we get you hyped for the game that we have been waiting more than a decade for, let us know in the comment section. Also, let us know what you guys thought of our interior offensive line rankings. You know, if you got thoughts on the center class, the guard class, whatever it is, maybe it's certain individual players. Maybe you just want to shout out Bruce Feldman as well. Just try to amplify the voices to see if we can get some Jaeden Roberts weightlifting numbers out here. Please do so in the comments. Best way to do that, youtube.com/@NFL Stock Exchange. If you want to hit us up on not YouTube, you can do so at Connor J. Rogers, at Tampa Bay Trey on X and Instagram. Connor, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think that sums it up well. We're halfway home through summer scouting. Really unbelievable to say that out loud.
It is. The season will be here before we know it. I know it's cliche to say that, but it is very true. So whatever we have coming up next, whether it is a offensive top 50, whether it is an NCAA episode, or whether it's just some completely random episode that you guys aren't even aware of yet.
The life of a stay-at-home YouTube dad with no kids. That's where we are. Our women are really big fans of that.
Oh, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
This is the life I've always dreamed of.
This is what we went to college for. Yes. Well, what do you want to be when you grow up? A stay-at-home YouTube dog dad.
Yep.
That's exactly what I want to be.
Yes, now we're talking.
We have achieved the dream. We really have. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That's Connor Rogers. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We'll see you next week.